We were here because they were over there. Their streets were paved with gold because we had no streets. Their streets were lit with lights, we had no electricity. We were the generators of the wealth in the world, yet we were the ones who were becoming the labourers for the mills and the factories. We, by nature, the products of colonialism, brought politics to the economic struggle. Ours was much deeper and more complex contribution to the evolution of the British working class's direction of struggle. These are the words of Tariq Mahmood, one of the members of the Bradford 12, whose watershed trial is described in the recent Channel 4 documentary Defiance, which examines the South Asian youth resistance against fascism from 1976 to 1981. The series, which focuses largely on the examples of Southall in West London, Tower Hamlets in the East, as well as Bradford, includes some powerful and deeply poignant footage of that era. And it shines a light on the important struggles of an older generation of Asians, which we hope will broaden our discussions on the direction of Asian organising in Britain today. But what was missing from the story of Defiance? Asians of 1970s Britain were not an island. They didn't exist in isolation from political events sweeping across Britain or the world, but rather developed alongside and in exchanges with other movements and struggles of the time. They emerged against a backdrop of Black and Asian organising, including autonomous women's organising, which was pushing against the limits of old guard community politics. They were radicalised by international struggles abroad as much as worker militancy at home. And they came of age in an era when ideals of socialism and national liberation were thick in the air. We can't speak about the rise of Asian youth from the mid-70s without talking about the rise of Black Power in Britain nearly a decade prior, which was a movement that Asians were active in and which the Asian youth movements consciously championed. Neither can we ignore the wave of anti-colonial and anti-imperialist struggles across the global south during this time, which lit up the imaginations and political consciousness of Black and Asian youth and elders in Britain. The late 1960s and 70s saw the whole of Asia aflame with revolutionary and liberation struggles, from Vietnam and Indochina to the movement against military regime in Pakistan and the subsequent liberation war in Bangladesh, to the ongoing Chinese Revolution and the Naxalbari insurgency in Indian Bengal that it inspired. It was these, alongside others, that defined the zeitgeist of that era, that captured the minds of Black and Asian communities and which they infused into their struggles here in Britain. So above all, the most glaring absence from Channel 4's Defiance was the absence of Asian youth's politics. Instead, we get a self-contained story of spontaneous, reactive battles as if they had no political project of their own. Young Asians were reacting against the immediate indignities of street and state racism without a doubt, but also against the authors of those indignities and the conditions that enabled them. And while the politics within and between the Asian youth movement was certainly mixed and uneven, it was this outlook coupled with their own battles against racism which drew sections of Asian youth towards embracing the politics of Black Power, of anti-imperialism, and ultimately of socialism. These are the traditions of Asian youth in Britain that Nijod Manush place ourselves in. But it's undeniable that some Asians of that era and the subsequent decades took different lessons from those times. It's they who we can find filling the ranks of political office or business today, or advancing the narrow interests of the brown faces in high places, which were made possible by those struggles in the 70s and 80s. But this only places the responsibility on conscious Asians today to pick and decide. Which of these traditions of Asian organising in Britain will we take on going forward? The radical traditions of socialist Asian youth movements, or the pretenders to their legacy?